Hello everyone, this is Venerable Tikwang Tree for Dharma On Demand on Dharma Tree. So today we are continuing and finishing the Four Noble Truths, and we are on the fourth Noble Truth, which is the path to end suffering. And so the fourth Noble Truth is basically laying out the path to reach enlightenment, and that path is the Eightfold Path that the Buddha had taught us. And so the Buddha did put the Eightfold Path into three categories, into wisdom, morality, and concentration. And so in wisdom, prajna, we have right view and right intention. In morality, sila, we have right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And in concentration, samadhi, we have right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So one thing is also important to know and to be aware of is that nirvana is not some heavenly place that is out there, right? That we have to physically ascend to. It's not a place that we go to after we die or, in the moments of dying. It's really just simply a state of mind, right? It is a state of mind that is complete um, understanding of life and being in harmony with every aspect of it, right? It is a mindset where the three poisons of ignorance, greed, and anger have been completely eradicated. So there's no suffering because we're able to accept life as it is, without any judgment or expectations, and just respond in a more loving and compassionate, generous way, right? It requires a complete shift of how we view ourselves, how we view others, and really how we just view the world in general. So the Eightfold Path is really a way of life that's lived in every single moment, in every single thought, in every single action. It's not something that we can just read about and know, right? It's something we have to actually apply and put into our life, right? It has to be lived. So, which, we can pretty much say for literally any topic or teaching in Buddhism, right? Because everything is very applicable to our lives. Everything is applicable to our lives. So we have to know not just what the teachings are and what the Buddha was trying to explain to us or help us with, but also apply those teachings to our life. Right? We can read all we want about nirvana, meditation, about suffering, the Four Noble Truth, the Eightfold Path. We can go through a huge list of whatever and still don't know how to use it or how we can apply it to our life, right? So it's really important to know that whenever we are reading or learning about any of the teachings is to also meditate and contemplate on it, right? So when I teach about meditation or teach of pretty much any topic, right, I'm always recommending that you contemplate and you meditate on the topic. And so, what does that mean exactly? That means that when you are sitting in meditation, right, if you're just doing regular sitting meditation, for the most part, our object of mind or object of meditation is breathing, right, or any other object of meditation you want to use. But when we shift the type of meditation from concentration to contemplation, right, we are instead of using the breath as the object of meditation, we're using the teaching as the object of meditation. So, for instance, if we're practicing meditation and we're contemplating on the first noble truth, right, that life is suffering, or in life there is suffering, we are really just dissecting that sentence. What does that mean, right? And so when you sit for meditation, you're contemplating, what does this sentence mean? What does in life there is suffering mean? What does it mean to me? What does suffering mean? What does suffering mean to me? How am I suffering? How are others suffering? What are the types of suffering? You go through the list and you're really just dissecting that teaching to find its trueness, the truth behind the words. Because the Buddha gave a lot of examples, a lot of simile and parables, and he used imagery and vocabulary from his time. So a lot of those things now, when we read it, it seems so, mystical or mythological or something, right? But it's really not it, right? We shouldn't take things at face value. So that's why contemplation and meditating on topics and on teaching is very important, because we have to be able to take away those superficial layers of how the teaching or the story was told in order to really see its core meaning, its core truth. And so it's really pretty much the same thing when we meditate on the Four Noble Truths. We are dissecting, we're peeling away those superficial layers that we have heard or read or know, and really trying to get to the core teaching of what the Four Noble Truths mean. And so when we get to the fourth Noble Truth and get to the Eightfold Path, we're literally doing the same thing. For the most part, at least, the Eightfold Path is something that is pretty practical, right? Everything in the Eightfold Path is very much doable. It's very much has the ability to be applied to your life and to anybody's life, right? There are some aspects to it where it may be against what we are doing, like in right livelihood, right? The Buddha laid out specific, very specific jobs that we should avoid, right? Like being a butcher or selling drugs and weaponry and prostitution, etc., right? So there are very few very specific jobs that we should avoid, but for the most part we can have a right livelihood, a good livelihood. But there's also other aspects to it too, right? Is your livelihood wholesome? Is it virtuous, right? Do you have to lie or steal or manipulate, right, in your job, right? Do you have to do things that are unwholesome, that are negative, that can potentially cause negative karma? And so those are the other things we really have to look at. So it's not just knowing what the path is, it's not knowing what the truths are, but to really be able to apply those teachings to your life. And once you do, you'll see a pretty significant change in your life, in your way of thinking, in your way of speaking, in your way of doing things, right? It may not be a dramatic change for most people. It'll most likely be things that are pretty subtle, and things maybe you yourself may not notice, but other people will notice, right? So there's still an effect there. There's still a change there. So we really have to put these practices to life, right? And we have to live by them, not just know them. But sometimes I always say to people who come to meditation class, right? Every waking moment is an opportunity to meditate. Whether you're walking, you're sleeping, you're lying down, or whatever else you're doing, you have the opportunity to meditate. And so when you walk, right, when people come from meditation class, and I tell them, when you walk to the temple or from the temple back to your car, walk in mindfulness, right? Because if you walk in mindfulness, then you're doing several things at a time. You are, you're being mindful of where you're walking and how you're stepping and where you're stepping, right? That way you can avoid potentially stepping on bugs or insects, or running over someone else's foot or one of our cats, right? And also at the same time, if you're being mindful of your walk, then you'll be mindful of things and your surroundings as you walk back to your car or to the temple or to anywhere, right? You may notice things you've never seen before. You may notice new scenery, new, like flowers or trees or people or things. It doesn't matter, right? Because our life is typically so chaotic. It's so automatic and robotic sometimes, right? We wake up in the morning, you eat breakfast, brush your teeth, you shower, you get ready for work, you go to work, you come back, you eat, you lounge around for a little bit, and you sleep, and you repeat, right? So it's a constant repetition. And because there's constant repetition, we do those things habitually without even thinking about it, right? Because it's the same routine. But if you're able to do those things in mindfulness, right, as mundane as the tasks are, right, like brushing your teeth or changing your clothes, But if you do it in mindfulness and really be present in the moment and in doing the action, then that mundane task can actually be pretty joyful. You may enjoy doing those things, right? Because a lot of times when we're doing simple things like cooking, for instance, if we're being mindful of the cooking, again, we're doing a few different things here, or there's a few different, you know, things that are happening, right? Because as we're cooking, if we're cooking with mindfulness and concentration, then you're going to be cooking a good meal, right? It won't be burnt, it'll be good, it'll be, as it should be. But if you're unmindful and you're multitasking or you're doing too many things at a time, then you have the potential to burn the food and to ruin the meal, right? But at the same time, if we are being mindful of the cooking, then it also may bring up an energy of gratitude because you have the ability to cook, right? You have the food, the ingredients, the supplies, the means to cook, whereas millions of other people in the world do not. So there's a lot of things that can arise and can be um, noticed if we're being mindful of the different tasks we have, right? It's not just being mindful and knowing that you're doing things, but it's also, on the other hand, you can apply, the four measurable minds or the six perfections to include, like special realizations like gratitude or generosity or forgiveness or loving kindness, right? So there's a different ways and aspects you can look at different things, but the main point really is to just be mindful of the task and enjoying and knowing that you're doing it in that moment without any distraction, without trying to overthink or overdo or overtask yourself with different things. So, the fourth noble truth on its own is pretty short because it's really just telling us, hey, the fourth noble truth is the way out of suffering. And that way out of suffering is the Eightfold Path, right? And so the Eightfold Path, I could have either included the whole thing in one session or break it out, which is probably what I'm going to end up doing. So, and I've been kind of doing that during during the Dharma talks on Sunday services at my temple, is breaking it out, one path per session. But there were a few of the paths that I had to break out into several sessions because they're really big topics, right? Like right view, the very first one is a pretty big topic because there's a lot going on there. So I didn't want to bombard you with so much information in one episode. So I'm going to do you a favor and break it out so you don't have to hear me talk for like 2 hours. But that is essentially the fourth noble truth and a very basic overview of the Eightfold Path. So next time we will start on our Eightfold Path journey together and go through that process. So I thank you for joining me here today. Namo Shakyamuni Buddha.